Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of the poem Digging, written by Seamus Heaney. Seamus Heaney is an Irish writer, and he has also won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995. And in this poem Digging, he expresses three themes. One is the respect for hard work. Second is the respect for his tradition, and third is the power of literature. And he has written the poem with the title Digging to refer to the profession of his ancestors, his family tradition. He says that his father and his grandfather dig potatoes for the living, and the whole family follows this profession, whereas he has become a writer. Therefore, he did not follow the footsteps of his grandfather and his father, but in order to create an identity for himself, he became a writer. At the same time, he says, though I have not taken up the family profession, in a way, I am also digging into the past, into the tradition, into the history, and the spade which I use is my pen. It's a beautiful poem. Come, let's go to the poem and see exactly what he's trying to say. He begins the poem like this. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Snug means comfortable. So he says, I'm holding the pen in my hands, and here you must see that he compares his pen to the gun to show the power of the pen, the power of literature. So he says, I am a writer. Under my window, a clean rasping sound when the spade sinks into graveling ground, my father digging. So he says, close by my room, there's a window, and under the window, I can hear my father digging the ground with his spade. And see how beautifully he says, rasping sound when the spade sinks into graveling ground. It is rhyming as well. It is very easily telling us that his father is still working, and he is working just close by him near the window. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes up 20 years away. So he says, now I am looking at my father through the window, and he is digging potatoes, but he has been doing this for the past 20 years. I can remember. And he says, my father, he always works in the flower beds. He bends low and then he comes up. The rhythm of his working. Stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. So he will stoop down to dig out the potatoes. And this is what my father has been doing for the past 20 years. This is his profession, and he's very proud of it. The coarse boot nestled on the lug, the shaft against the inside knee, was levered firmly, and he explains how his father will dig out the potatoes with the shaft and how his whole body works in rhythm. He uses his hands, his legs, his knee, and everything very perfectly in order to dig out the potatoes. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. So he says, when I was young, I remember whenever my father used to dig out and bring out the potatoes from the ground, we used to take them so lovingly because we loved the chillness and the hardness of the potatoes in our hands. And he says, I have also been trained. When I was young, I was being trained for that profession. My whole family, all of us used to go and help my father. By God, the old man here refers to his father. By God, the old man could handle a spade. He says, the way my father handles a spade, it is a beauty to watch. Just like his old man. And he says, the way my father works reminds me of my father's father, that is my grandfather. My grandfather also was a very hardworking person. Now he goes to tell about his grandfather. He says, my grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Tonersburg. So he says, in this place itself, no one can work so very hard like my grandfather. My grandfather used to do more work than anyone else in this area. And he remembers one incident. He says, once I carried him milk in a bottle cocked sloppily with paper. He says, I remember taking milk for him in a bottle and I closed the bottle with a paper. He straightened up, that is, he was bending and he was digging potatoes. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away. That is, he just got up, he drank the milk and went back to work immediately. He drank the milk very fast and he went back to digging. And that shows what a hard worker his grandfather was, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving swords over his shoulder, going down and down for the good of digging. And this is the way his grandfather was working, finding the way how to make the soil better and digging out the potatoes. They know nothing, they know only their hard work, their profession, and this was the tradition of their family. And then he says, the cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, peat is the soil, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. He says, I remember everything. I remember the smell of the potato mold. When the potatoes come out, they come with the soil. And I remember the soggy peat which was covering the potato. I remember how the living roots were there. Everything is there in my head. It is fresh in my mind. But I have no spade to follow men like them. But he says, I did not take up that profession. All others did. All others followed my grandfather and my father, but I did not take that spade. Here there is a sign of a regret in his way of expressing his feeling. But then he continues saying, between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, I'll dig with it. So now he shows the power of literature. He says, I did not follow their profession. I wanted an identity. So I did not take spade. Instead of that, I took my pen. And he says, with my pen, I will also dig. So I am following my family profession. Only thing is, the spade which I am using is my pen. And he ends the poem here. It's a very beautiful poem by Seamus Heaney. Please to read it. Read all his works. You will enjoy his writing. And if you have anything to add on to this poem, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends. And if you are not subscribed my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.